Hey everyone, I'm here to help answer some questions about what particular notes are worth. And while doing my currency search, I stumbled across this note. And you're going to see that this note is clearly off cut. It is off center. If you look real close here, looking at the corner is the best way to do it because now you can see how wide this is compared to how narrow this is. If you look down here, you can see wide, wide. If you look at the other corner, you can see very wide here and very narrow here. And if you look at this corner, narrow and narrow. So this note is clearly off cut. Is that a mistake? Is that an error? And if so, what's it worth? Well, these are all great questions, and I've seen people trying to sell these for all kinds of different amounts. But that doesn't change the fact that it has a value, or it does not have a value. Just because somebody will buy one doesn't mean it's worth anything. So many times people will tell you it's worth whatever someone will pay for it. No, it is not. No. It's worth what it's worth. What somebody will pay for it simply is a demonstration of their ignorance on the value. So, value has to do with whether or not there is actual collectability to it, if there's any rarity to it. Value does not have to do with what it sold on eBay for yesterday. Like I said, usually when something sells on eBay that isn't worth anything, it's being sold to somebody who doesn't know. And I'm trying to get it so that you aren't the person who doesn't know. You are now going to be the person in the know, and you won't be getting ripped off. All right, so we've looked at this note. I've found this in circulation, and you can see it is most certainly off cut. And some people are going to scream from the tops of the mountains that this is an error. All right, well, let's find out. Let's find out if this is an error. I have U.S. Error Note Encyclopedia, Stephen M. Sullivan, and this book has all kinds of information on errors. Okay, not only does it have errors, it has pictures of errors, and it also includes some prices. So let's take a look at what it says. Here's the section on miscut notes, and it says right here, miscut notes have a class rarity rating of R5. A miscut note will have the back, face, and overprint all in line with each other, but the cut, outside margin, will be out of alignment. BEP inspection guidelines for modern notes state that as long as there is a white border all the way around the note design, it is passable. Older notes had a much more stringent inspection criteria, and if a note showed only a sliver of white margin, it was considered misaligned or miscut. Okay? So once again, just to clarify, BEP inspection guidelines for modern notes state that as long as there is a white border all the way around the note design, it is passable. Which means it's not an error that escaped from the BEP. If you can see any border at all around the note, this did not sneak out of the BEP. Now, that is what makes a note rare and valuable. If it is something that was not supposed to get out of the BEP and they just missed it, okay, that's rare. That's valuable. A note that they put in black and white that says is passable, is it off cut? Sure. Is it rare? No, they didn't even bother to stop it. So why would this have any additional value? If the BEP is perfectly fine with this note as being worth $1, then we should all be perfectly fine with this note being worth $1. So there it was in black and white. And they stress the front and the back. Now, some of you are going to look at the back of this note and say, well, the margin's just fine on the back, so this must be an alignment error. Well, once again, look at the corner. That's the best way to tell. Let's see if I can do this right here. This corner, this top margin is a little narrow. This is narrow, And let's look at the bottom. Look at how wide the bottom is. We can go on this side. Look at how wide the bottom is, how wide this side is, and how narrow the top is. So there is a wider border on this side, and if we take the note and flip it, you'll see there is a wider border here. The top of the note, look how thin that is here. And if we flip the note looking at the top, it doesn't look thin until you look at the bottom. Because when you do the back of the note, the image on the back is slightly smaller than the image on the front, which means the borders are just slightly bigger. That's why the top border on this looks like it looks like it's the right size, and the bottom looks like it's way too big. It's simply off cut. Now, if I was to take this bill and compare the size of it to any other bill, it would be the same size. So stressing once again, this bill is simply off cut. Now, I have another error book right here. This one is United States Paper Money Errors, Comprehensive Catalog and Price Guide. What do they show when it comes to these particular errors? Let's take a peek. All right, this is the section about cutting errors. And what they call a minor cutting error, look at this $50 bill. The bottom of the note, you can see how the cut goes into the print. But more importantly, the top of the note, see how there's a black line at that top? That's the next note in line. So if you want an actual error, if the cut goes into the print and a portion of the next note is showing, that's an error. This is not an error. This is worth face value. But we'll get to that later. Once again, that is a minor error. Here is what's known as a moderate error, where there's actually a significant portion of the bill showing that's actually legible. And of course, here is a major cutting error. So there's 3 examples right there of what an actual error is. But most importantly, on the minor error, where the error portion starts, you can see another bill starting to come into play. Now, as far as what these are worth, let's see. Here's a minor error. Once again, you can see how it cuts in there, and it's just starting to get under here. And they call the minor error in EF. That's a grade 40, $50. In about uncirculated is 75. Choice uncirculated 63 is roughly $100. And once again, that's if you can start to see that. You're talking about the cut going into the print, and you're talking about being able to start to see, here you can start to see the next note coming into play. All right. The bigger problem, though, is what you're actually going to find, which is a note like this. So what's this really worth? That's the question. Well, we all know that the value of any note is based on the grade. I just showed you the different prices for different grades. So how do you grade a note? Well, who better to show us how to grade a note than PMG, Paper Money Guarantee, the actual grading company. And I'm going to run through these. 70, of course, is the best you can get. And the definition here says, the highest grade assigned. Notes must have no evidence of handling visible at 5x magnification. The margins and registration must appear centered to the unaided eye. Notes must qualify for the PMG star designation to be graded 70. So that's a 70. Let's look at a 69. The note is nearly visibly indistinguishable from a 70, but the margins and registration may appear slightly off-center. There is no evidence of handling visible to the untrained eye. Really? So the difference between a 69 and a 70 is the note may appear slightly off-center. If a 70 is perfect and a 69 is almost perfect, which one of these two is worth more? Clearly the 70. But what's the difference? The centering. So if you have a note that isn't centered properly, according to this, it's going to grade lower. Well, that's a 70 to a 69. Let's look at a 68. The margins in registration are slightly off-center. There may be very minor handling. Look at a 67. A note with above average margins in registration, there may be minor handling. 66. There may be slightly more handling than a 67 EPQ note. The centering must be above average. 65. The note may have one or two minor distractions as a result of minor handling. The centering must be above average. And as we continue down through the uncirculated notes, a 64. The centering is off on one or two sides. 63. The centering is imperfect and the design may be flat. 62. The note is strictly uncirculated but may have minor to moderate handling and a corner tip issues. There will be no folds. The margins may touch or come into the design. Do you see how one of the most important factors in all of these different grades is the centering? Do you see how the more dramatic the off-cut is, the less it's worth when you grade it? This is not me making this stuff up. This is the grading company and how you define a grade. And everybody here knows that the higher the grade, the higher the value. So if the grading company tells you that if a note is off-center, that lowers the value, then how can anybody, well, if the grading company says that, and if the BEP says that a note that's off-center is acceptable and not an error, then how can anybody tell you that this is worth anything more than $1? It's not. In fact, if you have people telling you that you can sell these notes for $20 on eBay, yeah, you can. But they probably are also trying to sell you a bridge. If you're in the market to buy a bridge, go talk to them. But if you're a currency collector like me, don't fall for it. You can sell anything to anyone at any price. But is it actually worth anything? No. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you are the type of person who will sell garbage at ridiculous prices because you don't care about your sellers. I'm not that guy. If I'm going to tell somebody something is worth something, if I'm going to charge a price for an item, you better believe it's going to be worth it. Some people will do anything for $1 or 20. Don't be that guy. Don't be the scammer. Don't be the problem. Be part of the solution. I hope you guys share this with all your friends because there are so many people out there telling you that this is worth money, and it's not. All right, guys, if you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.